Dear student, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to online teaching program. I am Saima Fatma, your English teacher. Hope you all are healthy and safe and have enjoyed your summer vacation. Today's topic is unit number 5, Dreaming of the Dawn Wall. Reading of this unit is not included in your syllabus, so today we'll do its exercise. Let us start. Now we are going to do exercise B, which is about idioms. Well, students, what is an idiom? Idiom is a group of words whose meaning is different from the meanings of the individual words. For example, let the cat out of the bag is an idiom, which means to tell a secret by mistake. Second example is over the moon. Again is an idiom. It means extremely happy and excited. Make ducks and drakes is also an idiom, which means spend lavishly. Fit as a fiddle is an idiom, which means in good health. Going on a wild goose chase is an idiom, which means doing something that is pointless. So we can say that idiom is a group of words established by usage and having a meaning not deductible from those of the individual words. Now we are going to do first part of exercise B. The question is, match the idioms in list A with their meanings in list B. In this question, you have been given two columns. In column A, some idioms have been given. In column B, meanings of these idioms have been given. What you have to do? You have to match the idioms in column A with their meanings in column B. Let us do this exercise. First idiom, to be at hand. What does it mean? It means to be very near. Second one, to take something in hand. It means to take charge of it, manage it. Number 3, to get out of hand. What does it mean? It means to become out of control. Number 4, to have time or money in hand. It means to have it spare, left over to be used. Number 5, to keep one's hand in. What does it mean? It means to keep in practice. Number 6, to have one's hand full. It means to have a lot of work. Number 7, to give someone a good hand. It means to applaud someone for a good performance. Number 8, to be a handful, to be difficult to control. Number 9, to be an old hand. It means to be experienced at something. Number 10, to get the upper hand of something, someone, to win an advantage over it or him. Now we are going to do second part of exercise B. Question is, use the idioms in list A in sentences of your own. So you have to make the sentences of the idioms given in column A. First idiom is to be at hand. Its sentence is carry on. Destination is at hand. Second one, to take something in hand. Its sentence is it is hoped that the new manager will take the organization in hand. Number 3, to get out of hand. Sentence is unemployment is getting out of hand. Number 4, to have time, money in hand. Its sentence is I'll have a bit more time in my hand when I have finished this project. Number 5, to keep one's hand in. What would be its sentence? Its sentence is she does a bit of cooking now and then just to keep her hand in. Next idiom is to have one's hand full. What would be its sentence? Sentence is he already has his hands full, yet he still makes time to volunteer. Next idiom is to give someone a good hand. What would be its sentence? The sentence is please give all our dedicated workers a good hand for their hard work. Next idiom is to be a handful. Her children can be a real handful. Number 9. To be an old hand. What would be its sentence? She is an old hand at dealing with the press. Number 10. To get the upper hand of something or someone. Its sentence is scoring 10 points in the first round. He got the upper hand over his opponent. Now we are going to discuss hyphens. You have already read about most of the marks we use in punctuation. Well students, what is punctuation? Punctuation is a device used by a writer to help his readers understand the meaning of his words. When we speak, we pause, raise our voice for emphasis or adopt a questioning tone. This makes our meaning clear in conversation. When we write, we cannot do any of the things and the reader can misunderstand our meaning unless we make it clear through using some symbols to express whether we are pausing, whether the sentence has ended and other such things. These symbols are called punctuation marks with which we are all familiar. Hyphen is one of them. There are two main uses of the hyphen. Number 1, to divide words at the end of a line of writing. Number 2, to connect two words which act as one. These words are called compound words. In this exercise, we are going to discuss the hyphen which we use at the end of the line of writing. The hyphen at the end of the line of writing is used to split a word which is too long to fit onto the same line. Remember to put the hyphen after the first part of the word, never on the second line in front of the second part of the word. Look at these examples. Will not be able to visit you tomorrow, but perhaps you can come here. In this example, we have splitted the word perhaps. But how? We have put the hyphen after the first syllable per and not before the second syllable haps. And mind it girls, you cannot split this word in any way. Like, look at the first one, P or haps. It would be wrong to split the word in this way. Second one, PE and RHAPS. It would also be wrong to split the word in this way. In the third one, PERHA hyphen PS. It would be altogether wrong to split the word in this way. Number 4, PERHAP hyphen S. It would be wrong to split the word in this way. Likewise, if you want to split the word photograph, hyphen would be placed after photo. And in the same way, if you want to split the word equipment, hyphen would be placed after the word equip. Likewise, if you want to split the word climbing, you should put the hyphen after climb. In the same way, if you want to split the word hostage, hyphen should be placed after the word host. So, if you want to split a word, you should put the hyphen after the first syllable. And don't put hyphen just anywhere. Now we are going to do first part of exercise C. Question is, show where the following words may be hyphenated. In this exercise, you have been given some words. You have to put the hyphen at their appropriate places. Where you should put the hyphen? Between the two syllables. So first word is sometimes. Where would the hyphen be placed? After the first syllable some. Next word is exaggerate. Hyphen should be placed after the first syllable exagger before ate. Third word is prolong. Hyphen should be placed after the first syllable pro. Next word is bicycle, where you should put the hyphen after the first syllable by. Next word is turnip, where hyphen should be placed after the first syllable ter. Next word is accident, where would you put the hyphen after the first syllable xc. Next word is prevent, where you should put the hyphen after the first syllable pre. Next word is grammar, where you should put the hyphen after the first syllable gram. Next word is English, where would the hyphen be placed after the first syllable ink. Next word is turkey, where the hyphen should be placed after the first syllable ter. Next word is philosophical, where the hyphen should be placed after the first syllable philo. Next word is catastrophe, where would the hyphen be placed after the first syllable catus. Next word is misused, where would the hyphen be placed after the first syllable miss. Next word is tremendous, where you should put the hyphen after the first syllable tree. Last word is hardly, where would the hyphen be placed in this word after the first syllable hard. Now we are going to study prefixes. Well, students, what are prefixes? Prefixes are small words or letters added to root words. A prefix is placed before another word to modify its meaning and so build a new word. Examples are prepaid, uncomfortable, impossible, export, transport, forego, and recall. What are prefixes in these words? Pre, un, im, ex, trans, for, re. Prefixes can be negative, which give the negative meaning, which mean not. What are negative prefixes? In, im, ir, and il. All these prefixes are called negative prefixes because all these prefixes mean not. Examples are indistinct, improbable, irreligious, illogical. The prefix in becomes im before the letters m, p, or p. It becomes ir before r and becomes il before l. Now we are going to do second part of exercise C. What is the question? Question is, make negatives of the following adjectives by adding in, im, ir, or il. So you have been given some adjectives in this exercise. You have to make negatives of these adjectives by adding the prefixes in, im, ir, or il. Let us do it. First word is practical. What would be its negative? Impractical. Possible, impossible. Legible, illegible. Personal, impersonal. Regular, irregular. Consistent, inconsistent. Partial, impartial. Mobile, immobile. Responsible, irresponsible. Religious, irreligious. Direct, indirect. Balanced, imbalanced. Legal, illegal. Sufficient, insufficient. Adequate, inadequate. Mature, immature. Mortal, immortal. flexible, inflexible, literate, illiterate, definite, indefinite. So we have make the negatives of the adjectives by adding the prefixes im, il, ir or in. We are going to do third part of exercise C. In this part, we have been given some headlines of newspapers. We have to tell what is funny about these newspaper headlines. First one, many antiques at senior citizens sale. What is funny in this headline? It shows that senior citizens are for sale. Number 2, cow saves a lion, horse farmer by tail from blazing building. What is funny in this headline? It seems that farmer has a tail. Number 3, woman denies committing suicide. What is funny in this headline? If a woman has committed suicide, she is dead and she cannot speak when she has been died. Number 4, 20-year friendship ends at the altar. What is funny in this headline? It means that they are married. Now we are going to look at the importance of pausing at the right time. Well, students, it is very important to pause at the right time because if you don't pause at the right time, the reader can misunderstand the meaning. And which punctuation mark is used to pause? It is comma. What is comma? Comma is a punctuation mark which is used for a short pause or to indicate that one part of the sentence is being separated from the other part. Look at these examples. Riding down the mountain, my horse stumbled again and again. Where we have inserted the comma after the phrase riding down the mountain to separate it from the clause my horse stumbled again and again. Second sentence, although I had already had my lunch, I sat down and had fried chicken. In this sentence, we have inserted the comma after the dependent clause although I had already had my lunch to separate it from the main clause I sat down and had fried chicken. Now we are going to do second part of exercise D. The question is, read the following sentences aloud. Some of the sentences have commas missing. In some sentences, a comma is optional. In others, they are necessary. Can you tell by reading them aloud where the commas should be inserted? First sentence. The principal told the teachers what time the assembly would be held. Is the comma missing over here? No. This sentence requires no comma. It is already correct. Second one. The head boy told the others whether they liked it or not to stand in line. Is the comma missing over here? Yes. This sentence requires two commas. One comma should be placed after the others. The head boy told the others. Second one should be placed after not, whether they liked it or not, comma, to stand in line. Third one, the stranger who entered the room stared at me for a few minutes. Again, no comma is required over here. This sentence is already correct. Sentence number 4. Asad said he would come to the party even though he had work to do that day. Is comma missing over here? Yes. We need to insert the comma after the party. Asad said he would come to the party even though he had work to do that day. Number 5. The tailor said he would mend the trousers as they were torn. Is the comma missing over here? Yes. We should insert the comma after the trousers. The tailor said he would mend the trousers as they were torn. Last one. The major, known to his soldiers as King Kong, was a large man with a ferocious mustache. Is the comma missing over here? Yes. This sentence requires two commas. One should be placed after the major, and the second one should be placed after King Kong, known to his soldiers as King Kong. We have completed the exercises of unit number 5. Hopefully, you understood. Your today's home task is do exercise B2 in your neat notebooks. But mind it, girls, you should make sentences of your own. Okay, girls, Allah Hafiz.